You know, it's interesting that you have said what the job of a quantity surveyor is, and you know, you've even made allusions to what happens in other countries. Be that as it may, you know, when people talk about contracts in Nigeria and contract inflation, they generally make reference to, they don't even go too far, they go to maybe other West African countries. They look at the cost of doing, say, a 1 kilometer stretch of road, maybe on the same kind of ground in Nigeria, and doing the same maybe in neighboring Benin Republic or maybe in Ghana. And people generally, maybe it's a joke, maybe it's true, but we definitely know that it's way higher in Nigeria than it is in a host comparative West African nations, as it were. What has your society been doing, or your group, I don't know, head of the institute, what have you been doing to address this anomaly?
What is happening right now is that in the government cycle, in the ministries, you have a situation where you have particularly for major capital projects, roads, highway, heavy, the estate development. You usually find that in the ministry, you have an officer who does the design. In most cases, you have an engineer doing the design, doing the costing, and then you also go ahead and do the supervision. That is not the right way of doing it. You have all the professionals. If you do your design, the quantity surveyor must come in and do the costing by preparing bills of quantities. And then, of course, when the job is being executed, then you also have to come and have all the consultants play their individual and specialized roles in terms of supervision. But you see, a case where we have it as it is in Nigeria today, you have a single point, one man doing the design, the costing, and the supervision. It's not right, because there are no checks and balances, and that is why we have that. We have a lot of this.
Okay, I was just wondering. So, where then is the quantity surveyor in all of this? Because I mean, as far back as 1999, there was this Senate ad hoc committee They were investigating the transport sector. That was led by Senator Heineken Lokbobere, and they identified a lot of challenges. They identified incompetence, absence of design, over invoicing, double payment, and outright stealing. It's a 58-page long report, and so that was talking about the transport sector. And then one asks, where do you come in? Are you always involved in all of this?
I gave a lot of credence to that Senate investigation led by.
But it was never debated.
That is the point. I mean, this was I read that document in Punch. I think Punch, to be specific, about the 29th of November, about 2 years ago. And up to date, that document has never.
Did you make any recommendation to your institute?
Well, we were waiting for the opportunity when the debate will come up, because these are the problems. If it was reading the paper, we tried to put in the position paper, we didn't get it through, and we're asked to wait for when it will be debated, and that is the sorry story we normally find ourselves. But you see, in that transport project, there was never. You never find the use of a quantity surveyor, and you wonder why that should be the case, where it is so glaring that for such major projects you should not only have engineers, you should have land surveyors, because they are in charge of all the survey levels, and as well as the quantity surveyors who should prepare the bills of quantities, and as well as monitor and control costs.
Now, what do you think of the National Housing Fund? If you talk about all of this reduction in cost of contracts, maybe by the time we do all of that, now the National Housing Fund should have kicked off. What do you make of that particular fund?
At the moment, I think it's accessibility to the fund that is the problem, big problem, and what the government should do is to provide the enabling environment, a good regulatory framework where there can be easy access to the fund. I mean, I'm very sure today that you have not been able to access the fund, and yet you would have been contributing about 2.5% of monthly salary to that fund.
Maybe you break it down for people now. You said that there is a kind of pool that you take from people's salary into that, and you're supposed to access it.
Yes, that is where the
do you think Nigerians, the average Nigerian, is aware of that?
First, for the average workers, they are aware, but because there is the ease of accessibility is not there, most workers are reluctant to contribute. So what the government should do is, to encourage, show that this is a workable policy. Let the government guarantee, bringing the private sector to massively construct houses, give out these houses at very low, sell them at considerable rates, rent them out at low rates, and then guarantee any default. And then I'll give you a classical example. If you go to a place like Baduya or Ajegule, get a private developer to go and develop 1-2 bedroom houses and say, look, you are going to rent them out for as low as 5,000, 7,000 naira per month. Now, if the ongoing market rate is 15,000 naira per month, we, the government, will pay you, the private sector, the balance of, say, 10,000 naira per month. That is the way that the national housing policy.
But for the individual, in the case of the individual, you need the land first. And this talk of the Land Use Act, maybe you clarify for the individual who really wants to do all of that.
We have been advocating for the repeal of the Land Use Act.
Why?
It has outlived its usefulness because it slows down investors. It slows. I mean, if you don't.
How does it operate? The Land Use Act.
The land is vested in the state governor. So it's only the governor that can allocate land. And when you mean the governor, you mean the ministry officials. Now, this ministry officials, they allocate choice land to their friends and relations. So, that should not be the case. What government should do is to auction the land in a competitive manner. In other words, if you have a parcel of land in Lekki and you put up a public advert that is going to be auctioned, people with it will go to the highest bidder. You will collect money instantly, and it is that money that you use to provide infrastructure for the private developers to go and develop. Now, but what is happening today is that because of the Land Use Act, the ministry officials will allocate a land, say, for 3 million to his friend. That land that has been allocated to his friend for 3 million can be sold immediately for as much as 40 million.